Okay, welcome to another crypto market update here with Trade Trojan. Keeping in mind, as a disclaimer, that this is not professional investment advice. This is just my view of the market. It's very volatile, as you probably already know. It's crypto trading. So, let's see where we're at today. We can see that there was a lot of hype, a lot of talk about going down to lower levels, 500. Some of the guys out there in the trading world on Twitter and a lot of other feedback sort of groups where people are trading all thought that this was going to blast through these levels here. Everyone was looking to see whether or not it was going to be broken around the 6,800 mark. It looked like it had sort of poked its head kind of above it there, just at a fraction if we go down to the hourly, and it didn't basically happen. It was rejected. So when we think of, I guess, the overall shape of the market as to how things have progressed, people are talking about levels of accumulation, that we're in those levels. Other people still aren't very confident, especially because of the rejection of this 6,800 level. But like most things, especially when the market is in despair, the market always has to come up and test, get rejected, keep going up, because we're going through a cycle. When we look at the overall trend here, we're looking at a complete market cycle shift. We've gone from the highs of the parabolic $20,000 bitcoins to everyone crying when it dropped and then thinking that doesn't matter, it's just a correction, and then we've come all the way down to 5,700 lows. We've had a couple of bounces. All of the bulls have started to cry finally and realize that it wasn't an actual correction in the market, and now we're starting to sort of peter out at the bottom and go through that general pullback session where it kind of slowly goes underneath. If we look back into CoinMarketUpdate, CoinMarketCap, and we look at Bitcoin, we look at the last cycle, which is often analyzed what happened back with the 2014. We look at the charts and we get rid of, let's say we get rid of the year 2017. Okay, when it comes to that parabolic trend, obviously the bear market begins, it starts to pull back, it has a bounce, then it has that slow grind which comes down. And if I go back to the current view of our charts, people are saying, oh, we're in the slow grind, it's still going to go down further. So clearly, if we were going to look at a slow grind area or a channel, we would be looking at this channel here. Might even just pull that over a bit, which has now really been broken. A lot of people then got excited, of course, because that channel had been broken. They got a bit excited thinking that we were looking, as we broke this, for a bigger bounce, which hasn't happened. But of course, when we look at all support and resistance, that support and resistance doesn't just live inside a channel that you dream up in your mind and you draw a few lines on a chart. It doesn't respond like that. As we know, this is a visual view of the sentiments of a market, people's pricing. That's cryptocurrency is nothing more than speculation on value and future value. So this is just a graph of feelings of what people are doing, of course, in the market. So you can't just assume that things are going to go the way that you want just because you draw some lines on the graph. Just having a green tea here. So when that broke that line there, of course, it looked like a real possibility of an upward trend, got rejected on the 6.8, had a pullback. I don't think people expected the pullback to be so fierce, but sentiment in the market is very low. As we know, there's a lot of talk about all of these security token offerings. We know the ETF and different things with the SEC being approved. So the talk now amongst many traders is that this is now an accumulation zone in and around here. Now, is it possible that it will go down lower? I would think it is possible. How would you be able to take advantage? How would I be able to take advantage of a lower dip? Well, you'd obviously have to have your trading account set up and you might have some stink orders down here. Maybe another, what are we looking at? You've got 5.7, what have I set mine at? Also, the other thing, keep in mind, people ask me, am I accumulating Bitcoin? Is that what I'm trying to hit once there is a bit of capitulation, if we do get a couple of final stabs lower during the accumulation period to try and scoop up some cheap buys? I would say if we divide it to say 20% off the top, alright, and then we go 1151 times 4, so that's 20% off the top, so 4.6, setting buys from 4.6 up to maybe 5 if you are lucky, very lucky. I don't personally think that it's going to go down to those lows. Look, the market might bleed out more and more and more and keep sagging down. But you do have to keep in mind that at this time now in history of this market cycle, we are moving into a period of time where the fundamentals behind crypto are getting very strong, and we're moving to a time when eventually it would seem that it will be approved and regulated so that the corporate money can start to get involved. The big investor firms are going to start to flood the market. So this cycle here that we see can't really be compared to the next cycle to come. So even though when we do look into the past and we try to make this sort of analysis as to this type of an area, some people are saying, no, we're around here still. We've still got a lot more to bleed out. Others say we're around here, and they're obviously trying to make these comparisons. But back in 2014, Bitcoin was nowhere near where it is today. It's 4 years on, people, and a rapidly changing market. So a few things to keep in mind. Personally, on this dip here, I'm purchasing a few tokens that are really at ground floor. One that people know that I've been slowly accumulating and getting in, because it doesn't seem to hit the deck when there is a drop in price. It doesn't seem to be too overly dramatic, but when it rises, you can really sweep up. So even if you think of just a simple little trend that we saw there, and let's say look at this one in May, going up to around about 50 cents, I think, or 40 or 50 cents, I think it was, and just prior to it, we're coming down here, 10%, it's like a 300% return. When we look at this area here, say the April to May, as to what Bitcoin did, April to May, where are we now, May, March, April, a 300% return versus Bitcoin did a rise of around about 30%, 40% compared to 300%. You just imagine, the way that I'm going about it is accumulating some of these coins that are totally in the gutter. They're dead. They're not dead, but because even if it bleeds out a little bit more, it doesn't really matter. I mean, look at the scale as to where these things can go back to. You're getting something for 10 cents that can be back up to its previous highs of 240. That's 24x return. This is pretty wild. Obviously, there's a few others I've been looking at. SRN. These are the sorts of ones that, even if it doesn't matter what happens to the market at this point in time, it doesn't matter if we do end up having some stabs down lower, even if it pulls right back down to these 5,000 marks, what I'm buying, I can hold for a long time, because when you look at these charts, if it goes down a fraction more, it really doesn't matter. You've got to keep that big picture thinking, so that you don't freak out and sell just because it drops a little bit more. All right. So I'm looking at those specific coins that are minimum 10x returns. I mean, look, it was a triple. We did a triple just when Bitcoin did 30%. I mean, imagine if Bitcoin does a double. You know, it'll probably do it a 5 or a 6x. And that's just in the short term, let alone an actual full market reversal back into a bull trend for Bitcoin. So at this point in time, we're still looking for some nice mid caps. Something else I've been really made some good money off is ELF as well. You're looking at 12 million in volume. Good total supply versus circulating supply on some decent liquid exchanges. You've got your Binance, you've got your Ethernex there. And even when you look at this one here, when it comes back down, it's coming back down to the sort of 40, 50, 60% mark. Look at this, went from 50 cents up to $2. That's 400% from like a 30 or 50% move, or whatever it is there. That Bitcoin had made in this small bounce on a bear trend. All right, so you've got to keep these bigger pictures in mind when you're buying. It's not a day trading; it's a swing trading a situation. So I'll continue to set some stink orders down here, and of course, with some of my coins, looking at some of their prior lows to be able to scoop up some of that. I think there will be a few little retests to make some double and triple your trading accounts before we move back into a market cycle. So I'm going to sort of trade those and then accumulate just based on the stink orders that I get down nice and low. Especially if something does end up happening with this ETF, it is going to really change things. So there's a little update, a few things to keep in mind, and just a few feelings as to the way things are going. I think that if we do push back up, where it looks like we will be pushing back up towards the 6-8 line, obviously it'll come then into resistance around about the 7.5, 8 mark. Okay, and then we'll either pull back again, which I would think that would happen. Maybe there'll be some whale games, chop people out just when everyone starts to get excited again, just make them even more upset and milk them a little bit more. The big money knows how to play games, but of course if you keep that approach to the market, which is pretty simple, buy low, sell high, and look for investment opportunities that are in the gutter but have good fundamentals and reasonable volume, especially understanding that it is a project that's moving ahead, a project that is actually using and actually does have another one I've been looking at here is Daddy. Who's your daddy? Great fundamentals, great project, real world usage. There's a lot more confidence to help you hold it, put it into your longer term holdings. But I think we've still got a bit of time ahead of us. I still think this is going to drag out for quite a few more months. It's going to be a lot of financial institutions loading the boat under the radar, over-the-counter trading, a few little things that are going to take people by surprise. Everyone's going to sit on the fence thinking that they need to wait until there's obvious signs of market reversals, and in that meantime, the big fish will be scooping up everyone's blood while they play their little chop games. Okay, so look forward to what happens over the next couple of days. We'll keep in touch, guys. Thanks.